is the bank closed there? Are they out of money? Explain to me the situation of what's going on with Iowa State.
Yeah, man. John Kurtz did a really good video about this. And it's a tough subject to talk about. I thought he did it a lot of justice. And it's a point that I've been making kind of here and there over the course of the last year or so about whether or not Iowa State can sustain itself in the Big 12, or whether or not there comes a day where Brett Yormark and the powers that be in this conference say, hey, look, it's just not working out financially. Do I think we'll get to that point? No, but if there's one university who at least publicly feels close to it, it's Iowa State, based on what their athletic director, Jamie Pollard, has said. Now, they have a full revenue share. They cost the Big 12 as much as any other school to keep their lights on, and they were chugging along, doing at least fine. They were keeping things afloat in Ames without their baseball program, which just means they have less things to pay for. And then the day came where the NCAA and the United States government and NIL and transfer portal and so many factors were added in that the school in Ames, Iowa looked around and said, look, we just don't have the donorship. Bill Gates is in Baylor's back pocket now. Kevin Smith is the owner of the Utah Jazz and is in BYU's back pocket. Texas Tech has a fountain of oil in the middle of their campus. There are schools that are doing just fine in money because they have these external factors that are pouring in so well. For Iowa State, it's the best way to describe it. They're maybe the most blue-collar, passionate, best fan base in the Big 12. That doesn't always equate to money, though. That's what stinks about this is you go to Baylor, McLean Stadium. Drayton McLean was the owner of the Houston Astros. Or you go to Lavelle Edwards, and it's this legendary head coach who's able to pour so much money into a university like BYU because of the money that was made. Rice Eccles, those are big last names for donors at Utah. Jack Trice is named after a football player who was tragically killed on the football field. It's this beautiful story, and I think it's a great reflection of what Iowa State is. They're a beautiful story of hard work and determination. But the two things, the hard work and determination, don't always equal. They don't always equal money. You don't always get revenue from that. So it's a great example of how they do things the right way. They're a great university to have, but they have not been able to necessarily pull their weight financially, and they're running out of money. Jamie Pollard, the athletic director, said, look, if the country's going to give $20 million to student athletes at every university every year, I don't know if we can do that. I can't confidently, like Baylor has this full buy-in or Texas Tech has this full buy-in. I don't know if we can confidently say every year $20 million can come out of my pocket and into that of the student athletes. We've always done things differently, but now you're saying you can't anymore. Traditional college football, college basketball has gone away, and we've got to get ultimately creative. I don't know. And here's how bad it's gotten. He postponed a new wrestling facility that was going to be created. He postponed a renovation plan on not Jack Trice, but Hilton Coliseum, their basketball arena. He said, look, we can't. We can't move forward on these projects because money is an issue right now, and we don't know the future of college athletics. When your athletic director is saying that, while you look around at UCF and TCU and Colorado and see the buy-in there, the money there, it's got to feel really hollow as your Iowa State, Jamie Pollard and company, wondering, how do we put the pieces together? How do we stay afloat financially? And if you're the Big 12, you want to do everything you can to keep Iowa State afloat, but at some level, things could get thin enough that this becomes a rockier relationship, and I would hate for us to get to that point.
Does this feel like a 2-year problem to you? Does this feel like a 5-year down the road problem to you? Does this feel like a 10-year down the road problem to you? Like, I don't know if you have any gauge on that, if you've heard any speculation about this. And then maybe to follow that up, so give us a time frame, and then what are the options there? Start cutting sports, just pay less. Like, obviously there's a cap of what you can pay, but is there like the NFL has a minimum threshold? Like you can't have a salary cap of $20 million in the NFL. What is the timeline, and what is the solution maybe?
Yeah, I think it's now. It's not 2 years. It's not 5 years. The problem is now for Iowa State, and that's hard to say and a hard thing to reckon with. But it's not like Jamie Pollard said, look, hey, we're going to have to tighten up the budget a little bit. He said actively, we're going to stop projects. We're going to stop building. We're going to stop progressing in the way that we wanted to because we're running out of money. And that's not a, hey, we're going to think 5 years down the line. It's really we're going to think about right now. And if you want to get a little more literal, a year or less, just depending on what the government does. And it sounds like all intents and purposes, $20 million will go to the student athletes. And while most universities are gearing up for that, I think Iowa State is considering what they can do. And maybe what they do, you've seen different universities across the country get creative with this. A couple have hired GMs to handle their finances. A couple of them have had the school itself kind of resorb their athletic department, because so many of these athletic departments aren't necessarily third party, but they also are kind of disconnected from the college in a way. I think if you're Iowa State, you're going to have to subsidize somehow, and you're going to have to bring in Allstate or someone. I mean, we are Iowa State Athletics presented by Allstate. What if there was a way to combat revenue sharing with your student athletes with brand deals, with major brand deals like the Big 12 was going to do in their version of getting creative, and as they have done with so many different big brands and big logos. That's how creative you've got to get if you're Iowa State. And then from there, if you still say, hey, we only have $15 million in the tank, you don't have to give 20. You don't have to buy all the way in, by my understanding and the way that I've read the legal documents. You can give $10 million. You can give $12 million. Because think about like a school like Western Kentucky. They probably can't give $20 million, but the NCAA is not going to say, okay, it's $20 million or bust. You can do something. Iowa State's probably going to fall in the category of having to do something, unless they reach out to donors and almost kind of GoFundMe this thing, which wouldn't be that rare in college athletics. We saw Vanderbilt start their own GoFundMe for their goalposts after they were thrown in the river post beating Alabama in Nashville last year. So you've got to get creative at this point if you're Jamie Pollard and Iowa State. Not a good spot to be in, not how you want to be. But the Big 12 is going to help until you get to the point where you say, okay, this has been a whole lot of helping. What do we get in return?
You're right. Like collectives are glorified GoFundMes. This is not, something new that, oh man, how could they try and ask people for money? I mean, that's what we've been doing in college football for the last 2 or 3 years now. And so it's not outside of the realm of possibilities. I guess my last question, the way that we'll end this, is what would it take would the Big 12 kick them out? Like, is that an actual concern, an actual worry? And what would be the real reason? Just because they weren't competitive enough, or just they didn't have the money to have enough sports to be in the conference, or what would be the real motivator there? Yeah,
I don't think we're right on top of it, but it cannot be ruled out in where college football, specifically college football, is going. Iowa State's going to have to win. The day that comes that they become a Kansas or become old school Iowa State and just lose perennially, that's when it gets a lot easier to say, okay, we can't keep doing this. And You've seen it with some of the smaller conferences who have moved on or have had complete and utter chaos in their realignment makeup. The Big East has had to say goodbye to universities because they couldn't hold their weight financially. You saw it when the WAC kind of rebranded, and you see the A10 or the Southland Conference, the FCS levels in football. This could creep its way into the FBS the day that the Big Ten decides we can't do Rutgers anymore, we can't do Illinois anymore, we can't do X, Y, and Z, we can't do Northwestern, we can't find a way to justify them being here financially. The second one of those tips over, I think that's when we start to worry about Iowa State. I don't see this happening this year, even next year for sure, but even that next TV contract conversation comes around and ESPN goes, hey, look, we're also cutting corners. We cannot do this unless we consolidate. And as you know, TJ, college football, Power 5 to Power 4, we're already consolidating. We already kicked out Washington State and Oregon State because they weren't bringing us enough money. That could be the fate of Iowa State if things don't change.
Yeah, unfortunately a business, and to the detriment of some of our favorite things about the sport. But I hate it for Matt Campbell's program and really the entire Iowa State program. But at the same time, I understand it if I'm running $1 billion TV network. It is unfortunately not charity. So hopefully they can get it figured out. I've truly always loved watching Iowa State, and so hopefully something that fan base, the donors there, can rally together and get things figured out. Drake C. Toll, you can follow him everywhere on social media. We'll link it in the description, as well as Locked On Big 12. Maybe it'll be, instead of Iowa State Athletics, brought to you by All State of the Iowa State Athletics, brought to you by Locked On Big 12. But Drake, I appreciate you for hanging out, bud.
TJ, always so fun.